My son was standing under a bright banner that said, "Happy Retirement, Dad," and he was smiling like a man who had earned every clap in the room. The microphone was close to his mouth. The lights made his face shine. People were laughing and nodding at his words. And then he said it. "Everything this company is, I built it," he announced. "From the very beginning, I took the risk. I carried the pressure. I made the hard calls. And today, I'm proud to say my father is retiring from the business I created." The room erupted. Chairs scraped. Hands clapped. Someone shouted, "Well done." I sat at the front table, holding my water glass so tight my fingers hurt. My retirement cake sat in front of me, untouched. My name was written on it in blue icing like a joke. I looked around at the faces. Some were people I trained. Some were people I hired. Some were people I had fed when money was tight and the company was only a small workshop with one old truck. They were clapping for my son. For a moment, I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching my own life get stolen in public. My wife, Helen, leaned toward me and whispered, "David, did he just say he built it?" I did not answer. If I spoke, my voice might break. If my voice broke, I might do something I could not take back. My son kept talking. He told a story about late nights and big sacrifices, but he told it like he was the one who stayed awake, like he was the one who skipped meals, like he was the one who took loans on his own name. He was not. I was. I stared at him and remembered him as a boy, sitting on the floor of my office drawing cars while I filled out invoices. I remembered how proud I felt when he joined the company after college. I remembered telling everyone, "My son will take this further than I ever could." Now he was taking it, yes. But not the way I meant. He turned and looked right at me. "Dad," he said warmly into the microphone, "you taught me everything I know. You were my first worker. My first supporter. My first investor. You deserve a peaceful retirement now. Let me handle things from here." More clapping. My chest tightened. First worker. First supporter. First investor. Not founder. Not builder. Not owner. Just a helper in my own story. He was rewriting me into a small character, so he could be the hero. I saw something else too. At the back of the room, near the doors, the company lawyer, Mr. Grant, was watching me. He looked uncomfortable. Beside him stood my son's wife, Sabrina, with her phone raised, recording everything. Sabrina smiled as if she had finally won a long game. My wife's hand touched my arm. "David, say something," she whispered. "People will believe him." I took a slow breath. I looked at the room again. I looked at the banner. I looked at the cake. I looked at my son. Then I stood up. The room quieted like someone turned down the volume. My son paused mid-sentence, surprised but still smiling, like he expected me to praise him. I walked toward the microphone. My son stepped back politely, offering it to me like a gift. "Say a few words, Dad," he said. I took the microphone and held it close. My heart was pounding so hard it was almost loud. Everyone waited. Some people leaned forward. I could see the phones coming up. People loved speeches. I could have exposed him right there. I could have said, "That is a lie. I built this company." I could have embarrassed him in front of everyone. But I did not. I looked at my son, then at the crowd, and I smiled softly. "I'm proud of you," I said into the microphone. A wave of approval rushed through the room. My son's smile grew wider. I continued, keeping my voice calm, gentle, almost tired. "Tonight is about celebrating the future." My son nodded, pleased. I looked directly at him and said the next words carefully, as if they were harmless. "Go ahead, son. Finish speaking." My son laughed, relieved. "Thank you, Dad." He took the microphone back like a king taking his crown. I returned to my seat. My wife stared at me, confused. "David, what are you doing?" I leaned closer and whispered so only she could hear. "I'm letting him dig the hole," I said. My wife's eyes widened. "What hole?" I looked across the room at Mr. Grant, the lawyer, who was now shifting his feet like he wanted to disappear. Then I looked at Sabrina, still recording. And finally, I looked at my son, still talking, still claiming my work. I whispered to my wife again. "Because after tonight," I said, "he will learn what it feels like to stand on something that suddenly disappears." My wife swallowed. "David, what do you mean?" Before I could answer, Mr. Grant started walking toward me with fast steps, his face pale. He leaned down and spoke low. Mr. Hale, he said urgently, we need to talk. Right now. Your son filed something this morning. My stomach dropped. Filed what? Mr. Grant's eyes flicked to the stage, then back to me. He filed paperwork to remove you from the board, he whispered. And he did it using your signature. I felt the room spin. My signature. I whispered back. Mr. Grant nodded once. I'm sorry. But it is already submitted. I stared at the stage. My son was still speaking. Still smiling. Still lying. And now I understood something worse than the stolen credit. This was not just a speech. It was a setup. And if I did not move fast, I would not just lose respect. I would lose everything I built. 2 years earlier, my son, Ethan, did not speak like a king. He spoke like a young man who still needed help. Dad, he said, sitting across from me in my office, I want to modernize everything. New contracts, new systems, new partnerships. We can grow faster. I liked his energy. I liked his ideas. I liked the way he cared. Back then, I trusted him. My company, Hale Industrial Supplies, started as a small delivery business. I sold bolts, tools, and building parts to local shops. I drove the truck myself. My wife did the books at the kitchen table. I built relationships by showing up on time and keeping my word. That is how it grew. After 25 years, I had a warehouse, staff, and big clients. I was tired, yes, but proud. And I wanted my son to take it further. So I brought him in. At first, everything was good. He worked hard. He learned. He respected the people who had been with me for years. But then he met Sabrina. Sabrina was smart, sharp, and always looking for shortcuts. She talked about money like it was a game. She laughed at slow growth. She liked quick wins and big appearances. When Ethan married her, she joined our company events like she was a boss already. She did not ask questions. She gave orders. One day, she walked into my office and said, David, you should step back. Ethan should be the face now. I smiled politely. One day. Not yet. She tilted her head. Why not yet? Because it is mine, I wanted to say. But I did not say it like that. I said, because leadership is not a costume. It is responsibility. Sabrina laughed. Responsibility is easier when you control the paperwork. That sentence stayed in my mind like a stone. Control the paperwork. Soon after, Ethan started asking about documents. Dad, where do you keep the incorporation papers? Dad, who has access to the accounts? Dad, how is the board structured? I answered him, because he was my son. I showed him, because I thought I was teaching. But there were moments when he looked away quickly, like he was hiding something. The first sign of real trouble came when our biggest client, Westbridge Construction, called me directly. David, their manager said, we got a new contract from your company. It changes everything. It is signed by Ethan. I frowned. Ethan signed some contracts, yes. What is wrong? The manager sounded careful. It commits you to a delivery schedule you cannot meet. It also adds a penalty. A big one. My heart sank. Send it to me. When I read it, I felt cold. The contract was real. The signature was Ethan's. The terms were dangerous. I called Ethan into my office. He entered with a confident smile. Dad, relax. This is how big companies move. This can ruin us, I said, tapping the paper. Why would you agree to a penalty like this? Ethan's face tightened. We need to prove we can handle big work. We prove it by being honest, not reckless, I said. He looked at the floor. Sabrina said it would impress them. There it was. Sabrina. I called Sabrina too. She walked in and leaned against the door like she owned it. Yes. This contract is unacceptable, I said. We are rewriting it. Sabrina shrugged. Then Ethan looks weak. I stared at her. Weak as signing something you cannot fulfill. Sabrina smiled. Weak as old men refusing to step aside. Ethan flinched, but he did not defend me. That hurt more than the contract. Still, we fixed it. I met the client. I saved the relationship. I saved the company. After that, I started preparing for retirement more carefully. Not because I wanted to leave, but because I wanted to protect what I built. I spoke to the company lawyer, Mr. Grant, privately. I said, if anything happens to me, I want the company safe. I want Ethan involved, but not unchecked. Mr. Grant nodded. We can strengthen governance. Add controls. Keep your voting shares secure. So we did. Quietly. I kept majority ownership. I kept board power. I set up a trust for my wife. I wrote clear rules about authority. I added a requirement that major changes needed 2 signatures, mine and the lawyer's confirmation. I did all this because I trusted my son's heart, but I did not trust Sabrina's hunger. Then my health started to fail. Not big, dramatic failure. Just small things. Tiredness. Dizziness. A short hospital visit after I fainted one morning. The doctor said, "Stress, Mr. Hale. You are carrying too much. Slow down." Ethan came to the hospital and held my hand. "Dad," he said softly, "I'll handle things. You rest." I wanted to believe him. But while I was resting, things moved without me. Invoices started changing. Emails started going missing. Staff started avoiding my eyes. And then, one afternoon, Mr. Grant called me. "David," he said, "your son has been requesting copies of your signature." "My signature?" I asked. Mr. Grant hesitated. "He says it is for your retirement documents." I felt a chill. I asked Mr. Grant, "Did you give it to him?" Mr. Grant said, "No. But he is pushing." That night, I told my wife, "We must be careful. Ethan is not acting alone." My wife looked worried. "Do you think he would hurt you?" I did not want to say yes. So I said the honest thing. "I think he is being led," I said. And people led by greed can do terrible things. Then came the invitation. A big retirement party. A banquet hall. A banner. A speech. Ethan said, "Dad, you deserve it. Let people celebrate you." My wife was excited. "David, you should enjoy it." I agreed, because I did not want to live in suspicion. But I also did something else. The morning of the party, I went to my office early. Alone. I opened a file Mr. Grant had prepared for me months ago. It held the truth of ownership, voting rights, and a sealed letter to the board. A letter that could be read if Ethan ever tried to remove me. I placed the sealed letter in my briefcase. Then I went to the party. And now, in the banquet hall, with applause in the air and my son lying into a microphone, Mr. Grant had just told me my signature was used to remove me from the board. I stared at Ethan and felt my love and anger collide inside me. If my son forged my signature, this was no longer a family problem. This was a legal war. And the next move had to be mine. I did not stand up again during Ethan's speech. I stayed seated, calm on the outside, burning on the inside. I watched him soak up praise. I watched Sabrina smile like she had already collected the prize. When Ethan finally finished, the crowd stood and cheered. People lined up to hug him, not me. He came to my table, holding a glass of champagne. "Dad," he said brightly, "wasn't that great? People love the story." My wife's eyes were wet, not from joy, but from pain. I stood slowly and placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You spoke well," I said. "We will talk tomorrow." Ethan blinked. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," I said. "In the office." Sabrina leaned in. "David, tomorrow is busy. Ethan has meetings." I looked at her. "He will make time." Her smile stiffened. Mr. Grant waited near the door. When the party ended, he followed us outside. In the parking lot, under the yellow lights, he spoke quickly. "Mr. Hale, the board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning," he said. "Ethan called it. He claims you resigned." I felt my chest tighten. "I did not resign." "I know," Mr. Grant said. "But he submitted a resignation letter with your signature. And the bank received a request to change account authority." My wife grabbed my arm. "David, can they do this?" I took a slow breath. "Not if we stop it." Mr. Grant nodded. I brought copies of everything. The resignation letter. The submission timestamp. The bank forms. He handed me a folder. My wife looked at it like it was poison. I opened the resignation letter. The signature at the bottom was mine, but wrong. The loops were shaky. The pressure was uneven. It looked like someone tracing a memory of my hand. I felt sick. "Ethan," my wife whispered. I closed the folder. "Mr. Grant," I said, "tomorrow at the board meeting, I want you present. I also want the board to read the sealed letter in my briefcase." Mr. Grant's eyes widened slightly. "The contingency letter." "Yes," I said. My wife looked at me. "David, what is in that letter?" I looked at her gently. "The truth. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing Ethan smile. I kept hearing the applause. I kept hearing his words. I built it. In the early morning, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote down everything I remembered. Dates, conversations, moments when Sabrina pushed, moments when Ethan looked away. My wife sat across from me, hands wrapped around a mug. "Are you sure we should fight our son?" she asked softly. I looked at her and told the truth. We are not fighting our son. We are fighting the lie inside him. At 9 a.m., I walked into the boardroom. Ethan was already there, wearing a sharp suit. Sabrina sat beside him, even though she was not on the board. She had her laptop open like she was running the meeting. The board members looked uncomfortable. Some avoided my eyes. Others looked relieved to see me, like they had been waiting. Ethan stood. "Dad, you should not be here. You resigned." I placed my briefcase on the table. "I did not resign." Ethan raised the resignation letter. "This says you did." I looked at the board. "That signature is forged." The room went quiet. Sabrina's fingers stopped typing. Ethan's face tightened. "Dad, why are you doing this?" "Because you did it," I said. Mr. Grant entered and took a seat. Ethan looked at him sharply. "Mr. Grant, you saw the letter. It is valid." Mr. Grant cleared his throat. "I received it, but I did not witness Mr. Hale sign it." Sabrina leaned forward. "Are you saying Ethan forged it?" Mr. Grant hesitated, choosing words carefully. "I am saying I cannot verify authenticity." Ethan's voice rose. "This is ridiculous." Dad is confused. He is emotional. He is embarrassed because he is retiring. Sabrina added quickly, "He is under stress. He fainted recently. He is not stable." My wife flinched. There it was again. The strategy. Paint me as weak. Then take everything. I looked at the board members one by one. Then I opened my briefcase and pulled out the sealed letter. "This," I said, "is a letter I prepared with Mr. Grant months ago. It was meant for a moment like this." Ethan's eyes widened. "Dad, put that away." "No," I said calmly. "You let me finish speaking last night. Now you will do the same." I slid the letter across the table to the board chair. "Ms. Patel." "Read it," I said. Ms. Patel opened it slowly. Her eyes moved across the page. Then her face changed. Ethan leaned forward. "What is it?" Ms. Patel swallowed. "It states Mr. Hale holds majority voting shares and cannot be removed without his direct notarized consent. It also states that any resignation letter not notarized and not verified by Mr. Grant is invalid." Sabrina's mouth tightened. Ethan's voice cracked. "That is not fair. Dad promised me the company." I leaned back. "I promised you a future. Not a theft." Ms. Patel continued reading. "It also includes an instruction. If a forged resignation appears, the board must immediately freeze executive changes, freeze account authority changes, and initiate an internal investigation." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "This is sabotage." Sabrina's voice rose too. "This is abuse of power." I stayed calm. "This is protection from betrayal." Ms. Patel looked at Mr. Grant. "We must follow the instruction." Mr. Grant nodded. "Yes." Ethan stood up fast. "You cannot do this. I am CEO." Ms. Patel's voice was firm. "You are acting CEO. Temporarily. And as of now, your executive authority is suspended pending investigation." The room spun for Ethan. I could see it. He looked at me, shocked, like a child who thought he could break rules without consequences. Sabrina grabbed his arm and whispered urgently. I saw fear in her eyes now. Then Ethan said something that made my blood go cold. "Fine," he snapped. "If you want war, Dad, I'll tell them everything." My heart thudded. Everything. What else had he done? Ethan pointed at me. "You think this is about credit? No. This is about what you did years ago. The secret you buried." My wife's face went pale. I stared at Ethan, feeling a slow dread rise in my chest. What secret was he talking about? Ethan's eyes were wild. "You want the truth. I'll give it to them. Today." And Sabrina, for the first time, looked at Ethan like she did not want him to speak. The boardroom felt smaller, like the walls leaned in to listen. Ms. Patel raised her hand. "Ethan, sit down. If you have information relevant to governance or legality, you may state it. But threats will not help you." Ethan did not sit. He paced once, breathing hard. Sabrina whispered, "Ethan, stop." He ignored her. He looked at me with a mix of anger and something else, something hurt. You never told me, he said. You never told me who really saved this company. I frowned. I saved this company. Ethan laughed harshly. No, you didn't. Uncle Mark did. My stomach tightened. Mark was my brother-in-law, my wife's older brother. He once lent me money during a hard year. He helped, yes. But he did not build my company. What are you talking about? My wife asked, voice shaking. Ethan pointed at her too. Mom, you know. You knew Dad took money from Uncle Mark and never paid it back the way he promised. You knew Uncle Mark has been waiting. My wife's eyes filled with tears. Ethan, that is not true. Ethan turned back to the board. Ask him about the debt. Ask him about the documents. Ask him why Uncle Mark's name is connected to the warehouse deed. My chest tightened. Sabrina's eyes darted toward Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant looked troubled, as if he knew something. Ms. Patel looked at me. Mr. Hale, is there an undisclosed lien or debt tied to company assets? I took a slow breath. This was the trap. Ethan could not win by forging my signature anymore, so now he wanted to destroy my reputation. But the truth mattered, and if I tried to hide, I would look guilty. So I said it plainly. Yes, I said. Years ago, Mark lent me money. And yes, his name was placed temporarily as a security measure. But I paid every cent back. The record exists. Ethan shook his head. No, it doesn't. Uncle Mark said you avoided him. My wife stood suddenly, trembling. Ethan, your uncle is angry because we refused to keep giving him money. That is the truth. Ethan froze. What? My wife's voice broke. Your uncle has been pressuring us for months. He and Sabrina have been talking. Sabrina's head snapped up. That is a lie. My wife looked at Sabrina with hurt. You came to my brother. You asked him to help you push David out. The room went silent again, but this time the silence was full of shock. I felt cold. So that was the connection. Uncle Mark. Sabrina. A plan. Ethan's eyes darted to Sabrina. Sabrina, is that true? Sabrina smiled quickly, too quickly. Ethan, your mom is confused. I leaned forward. Stop. My wife is not confused. Mr. Grant cleared his throat. I did receive a call from Mark last month asking about governance changes. Ethan turned, voice rising. You called the lawyer behind my back. Sabrina snapped. I was protecting us. Ethan stared at her. Protecting us from what? Sabrina's face changed. The confident mask slipped. From being left with nothing. There it was again. Nothing. Fear. Greed. Sabrina looked at the board and spoke fast now, as if speed could make her story true. David planned to retire and leave Ethan with a title but no power. He kept everything locked. He kept majority shares. He kept the money. Ethan is his son. Why should he beg? I listened and felt my heart ache. This was not just business. This was family rot. Ethan looked at me and whispered, Dad, were you going to control me forever? I shook my head slowly. I was going to guide you until you proved you could lead with honesty. Ethan's jaw tightened. And you never thought I could. I thought you could, I said softly. That is why this hurts. Ms. Patel spoke calmly. We are not here to debate feelings. We are here to investigate fraud. She looked at Ethan. Did you forge your father's signature? Ethan hesitated. That hesitation was loud. My wife covered her mouth. Sabrina hissed, Ethan, don't answer. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to. I closed my eyes for a moment, pain washing through me. He admitted it. He did it. Ms. Patel's voice became firm. This is serious. This is a crime. Ethan looked at me like a drowning man. Dad, please. I was pressured. Sabrina said if we didn't act, your board letter would lock me out. She said Uncle Mark would help us if we moved quickly. So that was it. They used Uncle Mark as muscle and cover. They used Sabrina as strategist. They used Ethan as the hand holding the pen. Mr. Grant spoke quietly. We need to notify the bank immediately and secure accounts. Also, we need to preserve all digital records. Sabrina stood. You can't do this. This will ruin our family. I looked at her. You started this by lying. Sabrina's eyes flashed with anger. You are an old man who wants to control everything. I stood too, not loud, not shaking, just steady. And you, I said, are a woman who thinks stealing is the same as earning. Ethan cried openly now. Dad, I'm sorry. My heart hurt, but my mind stayed clear. I leaned in and said, I let you finish speaking at my retirement party because I needed the truth to show itself. And it did. Ms. Patel announced the decision. Ethan was suspended, an investigation would begin, and temporary leadership would shift to the operations director. Ethan's shoulders sagged. Sabrina grabbed his arm. We're leaving. Ethan did not move. He looked at me and whispered, Dad, if this goes public, I'm finished. I stared at him and said something he did not expect. It is already public, I said quietly. Your wife recorded the whole speech. Sabrina froze. My wife's eyes widened. Sabrina slowly pulled out her phone, checking. Her face drained. Where is the video? She whispered. I looked at her calmly. I have it. Sabrina's mouth fell open. How? I answered simply. Because I planned for the moment you tried to rewrite my story. Sabrina's voice shook. Delete it. I shook my head. Not yet. Sabrina's eyes turned hard. If you don't delete it, I will destroy you. My heart stayed steady, but danger rose in the air. Because now I knew. Sabrina was not just greedy. She was desperate. And desperate people do reckless things. That evening, I sat in my home office with the video file open on my laptop. Ethan's voice filled the speakers, claiming my work as if it were his. I paused the video and stared at the screen. My wife sat beside me, wiping tears. David, she whispered, I never thought it would reach this. I nodded slowly. Neither did I. But once a person believes lies bring power, they keep lying until someone stops them. Mr. Grant arrived at our house with papers. David, he said, we have options. We can report the forgery fully to authorities. We can also negotiate conditions that protect the company and protect your family, if that is what you want. My wife looked at me. What do you want? I stared at the folder. I loved my son. That was true. But love without boundaries becomes pain. And if I protected him with silence, he would learn nothing. He would repeat it. So I said it clearly. I want the company protected, I said. I want the truth clear. And I want Ethan to face consequences that change him, not just punish him. Mr. Grant nodded. Then we do this carefully. The next morning, I met Ethan alone at a quiet coffee shop. He looked smaller than he did at the party. No suit, no confidence, just a tired young man with swollen eyes. He stood when I walked in. Dad, I sat. Sit. He sat quickly. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I looked at him and said, I believe you are sorry. But sorry is not the end. Sorry is the beginning. Ethan nodded, tears falling. I continued, simple and direct. You lied in public. You forged my signature. You tried to remove me. That is serious. He whispered. Sabrina pushed me. I raised my hand. Sabrina pushed. But you agreed. You held the pen. You chose. Ethan flinched. I leaned forward. Do you know why I let you finish speaking? He shook his head. Because I needed you to reveal who you became, I said. If I stopped you early, you would say I interrupted you. You would say I was jealous. You would say I was old and afraid. But when you finished, everyone heard the full lie. And lies spoken fully are easier to prove. Ethan covered his face. I hate myself. I kept my voice calm, like a father teaching a child. Hate is not useful. Change is useful. He looked up. What happens now? I told him the truth. You will resign from executive roles, I said. You will keep a position, but not leadership. You will attend counseling. You will meet with a business ethics mentor. You will rebuild trust with action. Ethan swallowed. And the forgery? I answered plainly. The board will document it. The bank will document it. You will sign a legal admission for internal records. If you break any condition again, the case goes to authorities. His shoulders sagged in relief and shame. Thank you, Dad. My eyes narrowed slightly. Do not thank me yet. You have work to do. Then I said the part that mattered most. Sabrina will not be part of the company, I said. Ever again. Ethan hesitated, pain on his face. I love her, he whispered. I nodded once. Then love her at home. But do not let her lead you into darkness again. Ethan closed his eyes. She will be angry. I know, I said. But a man who cannot stand up in his own home will collapse in the world. Later that week, the board held a formal meeting. Mr. Grant presented evidence. The forged signature, the bank change request, the meeting request submitted under false resignation. Ethan signed the internal admission. He accepted suspension and stepped down. Sabrina tried to fight. She threatened lawsuits. She called me controlling. She told friends I was jealous of my son. But the truth held steady. Because the company records did not care about her feelings. The bank froze the authority change. The board tightened controls. The investigation documented everything. Then came the moment I had been preparing for. A small group meeting with senior staff, the people who had worked beside me for years. They had questions. They were confused. They were hurt. I stood in front of them and spoke simply. At the party, my son said he built this company, I said. That was wrong. He was pressured and he made bad choices. He has admitted it. He is facing consequences. He will rebuild trust slowly, if he earns it. No shouting. No drama. Just truth. One manager raised his hand. Sir, why didn't you stop him on the stage? I answered honestly. Because stopping him would have protected the lie. Letting him finish exposed it. They nodded slowly. They understood. That night, my wife and I sat in our living room. The house was quiet. My wife whispered, "Do you think Ethan will change?" I looked at the family photo on the wall. Ethan as a child, smiling with missing teeth, holding a toy truck. I don't know, I said. But now he has a chance. A month later, Ethan came to me with red eyes and a softer voice. Dad, he said, Sabrina and I are separating. My wife gasped quietly. Ethan swallowed. She blames you. She says you ruined her plan. She says I was weak for admitting the truth. I nodded. And what do you think? Ethan looked down. I think I was weak when I lied. I think I was strongest when I told the truth. My chest tightened, not with anger this time, but with sadness and hope. I placed my hand on his shoulder. Then you were learning. He whispered, I want to earn my place again. I nodded once. Then start small. Show up. Do the work. Tell the truth, even when it costs you. Over time, Ethan did. He arrived early. He listened more than he spoke. He apologized to staff he disrespected. He stopped chasing applause. He stopped trying to be a hero in a story that was not his. And as for me, I did retire. Not because I was pushed out, but because I chose it on my terms. I stayed on as a quiet advisor, not a tired worker. The life lesson settled in my heart like a calm truth. Sometimes the people closest to you will try to rewrite your story, especially when they want power without patience. If you stay silent too long, the lie grows. But if you speak with wisdom and set boundaries, you protect both your work and your family. On my last day, I walked through the warehouse one more time. I touched the old steel shelves. I listened to the sound of honest work, the sound of people building something real. Ethan stood beside me, quiet. I'm sorry, Dad, he said again. I looked at him and answered softly. I know, I said. Now live in a way that proves it. And in that moment, I finally felt peace. Not because revenge was loud. But because truth was stronger than applause. Because my son finished speaking. And then he finally started listening.